You know, the more I find out about fulvic acid, the more I wonder why it's not the number one supplement on everybody's list. I mean, people ask me, how beneficial is it? And I say, it is the ultimate force multiplier. And they say, well you know, what's a force multiplier? Well, let me put it to you this way. A force multiplier is like having a little army, and suddenly you manage to recruit Alexander the Great to be the general of your army. The next thing, you are conquering countries and nations. I mean, a force multiplier basically says the whole suddenly becomes far greater than the sum of the parts because of good organizational ability. So in this manner, fulvic acid is probably the number one organizational molecule, helper molecule for the human body. For example, in fact, one of the reasons I think maybe it hasn't quite come into its own is because it's on the surface of what it does. When you start running through the benefits, it's like, well, it sounds too good to be true. And I think that has counted against it. Well, number one, it improves every other supplement that you take. It improves it's the transporter. It transports 70 times its molecular volume of nutrients into the cell. And then it's able to take 70 times its molecular volume of toxins out of the cell. It increases your blood oxygenation. This results in almost an immediate, within a week, a feeling of much more energy and clarity of mind. The brain fog starts to disappear rapidly within a couple of days. But what is huge, we spoke about inflammation in one of the other clips, and we spoke about the electrical imbalances. Fulvic acid is able to give an electron to every distressed cell. It is the nature's ultimate antioxidant. It is also a proton donor. So it restores the electrostatic balance of the blood. So blood cells that are clumping together all of a sudden are able to become separated from each other. So remember we spoke about runaway oxidative stress. Well, fulvic acid halts that. Now, why is that important? Because runaway oxidative stress is the number one cause of all of the inflammatory diseases. And so if we can halt that by electrically, by adding a supplement that does the job for us, this is an amazing result. Runaway oxidative stress is the root cause of rapid aging, of inflammation within the body, and of the inflammatory diseases. Now, fulvic acid also progressively removes the toxic metals out of our system. Now, when you think that aluminium, for example, is the toxic metal that is responsible for Alzheimer's, which is on the rise, this is of great value. So fulvic acid progressively leaches out all of these toxic metals, mercury, aluminium, and lead from our system. There's no other substance that does this as effectively as fulvic acid, and then transports it out of the body. Fulvic acid provides 77 minerals that in their ionic and most absorbable form for our bodies. Now, why is that important? Because if you take a human being and you break him down into his components, what you'll find is something which is identical to what you'll find in the soil. All the elements that make up the human body you find in the soil. And so fulvic acid now is able to provide in the same ratios as the human body those essential elements that have been missing out of our diet because of reprehensible farming methods. In 1998, it was published, the World Health Organization, that our soil is 75% depleted of all these vital minerals. Fulvic acid puts all of those back. Okay, basically fulvic acid comes from a carbohydrate source. It is a product of the microbes breaking down humus or soil. And this produces what they are called fulvates or fulvic acid. Now, in the old days, we used to walk around barefoot. We weren't so paranoid about germs and everything else. We weren't so paranoid about getting our hands dirty. And also, we didn't use as much detergent. And so we got a lot of benefit. We have evolved in a synergy with our environment. And now with the modern farming methods, number one, the over-cleanliness of our cells, our paranoia about germs and everything else, and particularly the use of terrible substances such as glyphosate, we are fracturing the relationship that we have with our environment and within nature, and we're starting to pay the price for this. We see this in the inflammatory diseases that are running rampant. We might have cured the polios, and we might not have any smallpox anymore, but we're getting a lot of our older people are dying of diseases that just weren't there 60 years ago. Autism used to affect 1 in 300,000 people when I was a kid, and now, as of last year, it affects 1 in 68 boys. I mean, something is happening here, and this is the fracturing, the separation that we've had from our environment, which is resulting in diseases that we just weren't prepared for. So we need to find the cures. You know, Paracelsus, who was the father of modern pharmacology, and he basically pointed out that it's not the job of science to find cures. It's the job of science to uncover these cures in nature, because for every ailment known to man, there's a cure to be found in nature. This is pretty much the philosophy of neogenesis, is to find these cures in line with Paracelsus, and indeed in line with Hippocrates, who said, let your food be your medicine be your food. In other words, we don't have to go to find exotic compounds that have a lethal limit. We can actually find foods that will give us the same benefit and bring back into equilibrium. Now, equilibrium is an important word. It means balance. We've kind of fallen out of balance. So we are no longer at ease within ourselves. Things are out of balance. It's not at ease. This is the root cause of disease. And so we find that if we can restore the equilibrium within the biological organisms, or in the relationship that we have with our environment, that the disease disappears quite naturally. And we see evidence of this. So our philosophy is, let's find in nature the cures that will restore the balance to the human body.